Herman Ebbinghaus, who lived between 1850 and 1909, was a German psychologist who studied memory. To work out how it worked, he tested his own memory by trying to remember two lists of works. One, a list of meaningful words, and then a list of 2,300 nonsense syllables, each 3-letter long. He would look at the list for a second or two and then pause for 15 seconds. He repeated this process a few times until he could remember them. He recorded his result meticulously like any scientist would. What were his results? He found 3 interesting results. First, he realized that he could remember meaningful words significantly better than nonsensical words. So meaning is closely tied to memory. Second, he also noticed that the longer he spent memorizing something, the faster he could recite them. So the more time you spend remembering something, the better your memory is. And third, he also understood that the interval between seeing the words and reciting them also affected his memory. In other words, the longer he waited to recall, the harder it was. So as time passes, our memory loses most of the information. So he concluded that the content's meaning and duration of exposure and the length of the interval between exposure and recall affected his ability to remember. So our memory best retains information that is meaningful to us the more we time spend memorizing them, and finally the quicker we are asked to recall them. In other words, our memory is goal-driven and time-efficient. This is no surprise, as we all know, revision before an exam actually works, and a week after exam, we tend to forget most of it. But what happens to the information we do not retain? In the late 19th century, a group of psychologists realized that below the conscious memory lies a whole different world, a gray subconscious or dark unconscious world where we keep some dark memories. We know that what we forget doesn't go away. It goes somewhere in our deeper subconscious that later comes to haunt us. In the late 19th century, hysteria was a huge phenomenon in Europe, mostly among women, but also affected men, especially soldiers, today known as PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder. It basically meant an explosive outbursts of emotion, often uncontrollable, akin to some volcanic eruptions, would come out. Families were struggling to deal with their loved ones' emotional outbursts, often negative emotions. We know that volcanoes happen because the Earth's core is a molten rock, and sometimes it breaks through. So hysteria was something similar. There had to be a subconscious or unconscious chamber that erupted sometimes.